What's up, everybody? What's up, Big Town? So in this video, we're going to be looking at the topic of gangster rap, and specifically modern gangster rap that's come out very recently. And I want to look at one specific group and also just look at some of the kind of presuppositions and arguments that are made for and against gangster rap even existing. Now, I'm going to break the video up into two sections. The first part, just looking at some of the arguments and presuppositions behind gangster rap. And then second, I'm going to look at a specific group, Migos, which is a pretty popular kind of gangster rap group. And we'll just examine their lyrics and their content and their whole narrative and see if it stands up to the overall, apologetics of gangster rap. Now, first to start off with, we just kind of have to look historically at hip-hop and ask the question of, what is gangster rap? Where did gangster rap come from? And why does it seem that now everyone that's in rap has to have this hard-edged gangster-like image? And also the fact that, there are a lot of people that are actually in gangs in the rap industry, and a lot of the higher-ranking people in the rap industry, at least they claim to be in gangs, and you'd think that if you're on national TV waving gang signs and wearing gang bandanas and all that stuff, somebody in the gang would probably do something to you if you weren't really in the gang. So I'm assuming that some of these people are actually in gangs and whatever, and it's allowed to be on national TV and on YouTube and all this other stuff, but that's another story. So what is just the basic apologetics of gangster rap? The basic apologetics is that, okay, these are people that grew up in rough neighborhoods and they didn't have many opportunities. And, we know the basic apologetics, there was nobody in the neighborhood but pimps and drug dealers. And so they didn't have a dad. And the only way they knew how to make money was by copying the pimps and the drug dealers and the gang members. And that's how they end up being a gang member, pimp, murderer, hustler. That's what they rap about because they grew up in a bad situation. Okay. That's fine. That's understandable. And there's a lot of rappers that are very respected that talk about that. But then they also realize that once they got to a certain level of success, then they stop glamorizing that aspect of it and saying that, it was rough and maybe that did mold my character, but it's not really something that you want to experience unless, you want to be tormented by these thoughts or whatever type of things that they're talking about. And that used to be a lot more prevalent in 90s rap. Somebody even like DMX, he talked about that quite often about, struggles with, living that type of lifestyle and how it caused him mental stress and all that type of other stuff that he was, that it caused a problem. It wasn't just a complete glamorization of that type of lifestyle. And I think that's the apologetic side of gangster rap. It's like, okay, on your first album, you're killing everybody and you're straight out the hood or whatever, selling crack to people's grandmas and all that stuff. But by your fifth album, if you're still doing that, it's kind of, it's just like a head scratcher because obviously we know that anybody with a multi-million-dollar record deal and going on world tour is not, taking a break in between to sell crack and shoot people. And I mean, anybody that just believes that is pretty much ridiculous. If you really believe that, one of these rappers, he's on tour and in between tour, he just stops by his old neighborhood to shoot a couple people and sell some crack on the street. It's ridiculous. It's not happening in real life. So now we can look at that and we can look at the history of rap, and there's really no evidence to support the fact that you have to be this like tough, super tough killer gang member to be a proficient rapper. I mean, we could list rappers for days that are fundamental to the foundation of hip hop that were either like super hard or they were running around killing people, selling drugs, all this other stuff. It's like Run DMC. They're not gang members. They never claimed to be gang members. Never sold drugs. Never shot anybody. Somebody tell me Run DMC is not foundational to hip hop. Look, MC Hammer wasn't shooting anybody. No, he wasn't selling drugs. He wasn't, in a gang. I mean, maybe he was in a gang actually, but he was trying to, build up the gang into a positive thing. Same thing with Africa Bambaataa, which ironically he was Me Too'd, and he was one of the foundational members of hip hop. And his whole thing was, we have to transform the gangs from these like dangerous killing things into something positive. And that's why he started doing the music, because he was the leader of one of the biggest like sets in New York City at the time, or at least like in the Bronx. And he was like, we got to do something different than just stabbing each other and shooting each other. So these are plenty of foundational members. I mean, who else? Will Smith, Fresh Prince, and Jazzy Jeff. I mean, you could say whatever you want about him, but everybody was listening to Parents Just Can't Understand when it came out. So tell me Will Smith's not foundational to hip hop. Like he's not considered like one of the classic rappers. DJ Jazzy Jeff is still one of the best DJs in the world. But they're not killing people, they're not in a gang, they're not selling drugs. So they wouldn't be popular now. They wouldn't be able to be popular now. And even a lot of people consider Will Smith's raps to be corny, but I mean, can he rap? Can Will Smith rap? Or is what Will Smith's rapping about? He's rapping about having kids and a family and, being an adult. And, like for instance, Jay-Z. Jay-Z is a very good example where he talks about, going from being a drug dealer, gang member, to buying stocks and buying real estate investment and buying investment art. Like that's a positive message to me. It fits in with the apologetic of, I used to do this, but now I'm changing and doing something that's beneficial to me and to my family, to the community. So anyway, you can see where I'm going with that. Basically, no, you don't have to be a gangster to be a rapper, number one. And anybody that claims that doesn't know anything about hip hop or hip hop history or anything about the culture at all. And two, that you just don't have to continuously rap about being a gangster when it's no longer believable because you're a multimillionaire and there's no way that you're still doing all that stuff. All right, so just to be clear, I'm not against gangs or gang formation. As a libertarian, I think that people should get together in groups to defend themselves. And a lot of, the earlier iterations of gangs, whatever they're ethnic or local gangs or whatever, they were all formed basically as a form of community self-defense, in a sense. Like the Irish gangs, the Italian gangs, black gangs, Asian gangs. They're originally to, defend the area, and everybody that was in the local area was in the gang. Or you could call them militia, whatever you want to call it. But I think that argument falls to the wayside of, the neighborhood defense gang when you're selling crack to people's moms and you're doing drive-by shootings that are killing innocent bystanders, like specifically young kids playing in playgrounds and things like that. You can no longer claim neighborhood self-defense when you form a gang and then your gang is actually causing more harm to the neighborhood than if you just weren't there. All right, so we're going to look at the group Migos. Now, the Migos is a hip-hop group, it says here on Wikipedia, from Lawrenceville, Georgia. They were founded in 2008. Now, there's 3 rappers in it, Quavo, Offset, and Takeoff, and they're managed by Coach K, a guy that also manages Gucci Mane, Young Jeezy, Zaytoven, Murder Beats, and Buddha Bless. I don't know who that is. So I remember when their first song came out in 2013, which was a Versace song, and it was like the Drake remix of it or whatever, because basically they were put on by Drake, and then, Drake was put on by Lil Wayne. And so there's kind of a lot of connections to Universal Studios, and that's like one of my things with all of this kind of like gangster rap imagery and iconography that they have, is that this stuff is produced by Universal Pictures. Like, it's a movie. It's not real. There's aspects of reality to it. it's kind of like typecasting in a movie. Like, you get Jason Statham to play Jason Statham in every freaking movie. And these guys, that's what they are. They're just, maybe they might have kind of been in that neighborhood doing stuff, but you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like the way that they're portraying it is as if they're doing it now. And that is a movie. And I think that the difference between this and a movie is that they're not specifically portraying it as it's a movie. They're kind of trying to make you think that it's real, that what they're portraying is just as real as real life, and they're just rapping about their real life, but really, it's a movie. It's basically, it's fake. It's not 100% fake, but Jason Statham's not 100% fake either. I mean, he looks like that. He probably could beat a couple people up, but I mean, is he like a superhero in real life? No. All right, so here right out of the gate on the Wikipedia page, Migos kind of calls themselves out, and they really don't fit into the thug apologetic right here. And then when you look more and more into their lyrics and stuff, they're pushing the kind of like thug mentality, that kind of like hardcore gangbanger, like rap, like crack dealer type of thing. And then here in Wikipedia, he says, I ain't gonna sit here like my neighborhood was hard and I had to get out there and grind. We made it hard for ourselves. We chose to stay on the streets, Quavo said. So that's what Quavo said. He said that basically, it wasn't really that bad. Their neighborhood wasn't that bad. And they chose to be drug dealers so that they could rap about it, basically. Or whatever the reason was, they wanted to make more money and they didn't want to do it the other way. But in the end, it ended up being the justification for them to become rappers, because that's what they rap about. All right, so the first song by Migos that we're going to look at is a song called T-Shirt. I'll put the video link down below. You can check out the video. I mean, the reason why I'm kind of picking on Migos is because, I mean, I like their music and they can rap, but it's just the content and what they're rapping about. If you actually analyze it for a second, it really doesn't make a lot of sense on one hand, and on the other hand, it's just ridiculous to just even think that someone could expect me to believe that they're a multi-million-dollar famous, recording artist going on world tour, and in the background, like when they're on break, they just sell crack and kill people for fun because that's what black people do or something. I don't know. But anyway, the song lyrics basically is just saying that they're drug dealers. It says, "Mama told me not to sell work. 17.5 same color T-shirt." That's the hook of the song. So he's saying that his mother told him not to sell drugs. However, for $17,500, you could buy a kilo of cocaine from him. That's what he's saying. That's what 17.5 same color T-shirt means. So in the second verse of the song, he just basically says that 1995, 2005, seen it with my eyes, dope still alive, right? So he's saying that from 1995 to 2005, he was selling drugs. That's possibly believable. So he says, real bob ties, real frog eyes, real whole pies, all-time high, right? So he's saying he was in a gang and he was selling kilos of cocaine a lot. And then the next line after that is, do it for the culture. So what are you doing for the culture? Like, you're selling crack to people? Is that what you're doing? You see what I'm saying? Like, the way that line, and you can listen to the song, it sounds like he's saying, that's what he said. He said, I sold crack, do it for the culture. So basically, the whole like self-defense argument is out the window right there on these guys. And second of all, the whole like thug apologetics, I had to do it because I had no other choice. That argument also falls out the window. So you see what I'm saying? Like, they're not, a group like this is not standing up to the classical apologetics of why gangster rap should exist in the first place. So to me, they're just glamorizing the whole concept, and the whole like context of their rap is that the reason why they're rich and famous is because they were drug dealers, and now they can rap about being drug dealers, which thereby some way gives them more legitimacy than other rappers. Like, because, I mean, their lyrics are all right and their voice is all right, but when you listen to the content, it's just, it's dumb. I mean, it's just like, I mean, come on, young nigga popping with a pocket full of cottage, whoa, kimosabi, chopper, aim it at your doggin'. Had a copper Audi, then the topper had to chop it. Niggas pocket watch it, so I gotta keep. Okay, so all he's saying is repeatedly, you know, I've got money, I'm gonna shoot you, just bought a car, now you're jealous of me, so now I might have to shoot you. Like, that's all. It's just a repeated. There's just 4 concepts that you just repeat over and over again in clever, different ways. You just say, I have more money than you. I'm better than you. I'm getting women. I have more money than you. I'm better than you. That's all it is. That's all. And you just keep coming up with different clever ways to say the whole thing. Because I listened to their entire album that this is on, the album called Culture, which I think is significant to this study because they're labeling their album as culture, as black culture, or as whatever their culture is. They're the Migos culture, the gang banging, drug dealing, shoot people for fun, sell crack to your mama type of lifestyle, that type of culture. So it's like to me, I just don't see any connection with this being a positive thing for black people or for America or for the world in general. Just selling people crack and shooting people when they're looking at you funny and all that type of stuff. I mean, really. Now, in this next song, which is called Get Right With You, it's also by Migos. Basically, it's just the same thing. The hook is, hold up, I'm gonna get right with you. Bad bitches, fuck 'em, then dismiss 'em. I ain't really here to take no pictures. Middle finger up, fuck the system. Okay, so, hold up, I'm gonna get right with you. It's kind of like a double entendre because he's saying, I'm gonna get right with you, meaning I'm gonna do good business, but it also means, like, I'm too busy to talk to you right now. So it's kind of like a double entendre. Now, the interesting part about this song is that the entire context when they're talking about the drug dealing, because like in the last song he said 1995, 2005, but in this one the context is as if they're still drug dealers, they're still gang banging and running around with guns and shooting at people whenever they get a cross-eyed look. And I just find that hard to believe. But also, they have some interesting take on the geopolitics of drug dealing. So these guys do know something about something that's going on. Because here in the first verse, kind of like halfway through, he says, going to Thailand with them chinks, which I find it kind of interesting that these guys, they can still use all types of racial slurs and whatever, and they can still get hundreds of millions of views on YouTube, but nobody else can use racial slurs. But if you're a rapper, I guess everybody should just start rapping in their videos, because then you can just use all the racial slurs you want. Just when you speak in plain English and use racial slurs, then it's a bad thing. So, he said, going to Thailand with them chinks, Percocet party serving fiends, swear to God my plug was Vietnamese, Taliban my drugs rap 'em please, serving all day my gas on E, right? 30 hollow tips at Extendo. Okay, you're gonna shoot somebody again. I got it. Like, you see what I'm saying? You can't go like 2 lines without him being about to shoot somebody, right? It's not a defensive thing. It's more just like, okay, I'm gonna sell you drugs, and then if you have a problem with it, I'm gonna shoot you. So it's like, but here, I mean, we have some geopolitical commentary where we're obviously just being racist and saying going to Thailand with them chinks, and then he says, swear to God my plug was Vietnamese. Because where do all the prescription pills come from? They come from Asia. Obviously, he's just being racist and just saying that they could be any type of Asian person. But obviously, the prescription pills are coming from Asia. And ironically, you know, that might have been a large contributing factor to George Floyd's death, was popping pills, you know. But these guys are doing it for the culture, though, right? They're doing it for the culture. You know, they're getting rich and killing your grandma for the culture. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous when you really look at it and then expect me to, you know, accept that this is supposed to be just the norm, and I'm supposed to just say, oh yeah, well these guys, they should be rich. These guys should be rich and famous, you know, because they sell drugs, they promiscuously do women, and then don't even call them back, and then they will shoot you. That's a commanding respect. Okay. So right there, we can just see that the Migos does not stand up to scrutiny of gangster rap apologetics. These guys are clearly glamorizing the gangster lifestyle, the drug dealing lifestyle. They're all about selling pills, which, like I just said, was something that contributed to George Floyd's death. And, they're endorsing it. I mean, you can listen to all their other songs. They're almost all their songs are either talking about they're going to shoot you in every other line. They're going to bang your girl. They got pills. They got this. They got that. They're doing this. They're doing that. It's all the same thing. And I like I told you, I listened to the album. I listened to however many songs there is on the album. It's like 12 or 14, and they're all the same. It's just, oh, I'm a drug dealer. I'm gonna shoot you. I'm gonna fuck your girl. I'm a drug dealer. Yeah, drugs. I'm a fuck your girl. Like, I mean, yeah, it's clever. The way they're saying it is clever, but once you just like actually break down the line to what they're actually saying, beyond the like little clever like jibs or whatever that they're using, it's not really that interesting. There's nothing like profound in the poetry. There's not. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, you figured out another way to say I banged your girl, or you figured out another way to say I'm gonna shoot you. Okay, cool. Like, but what else are you talking about though? You're not talking about anything else but those four topics. And you listen to most popular like rap songs now, and that's it. It's just girls, money, I'm better than you. And then they'll like reverse it. Sometimes it'll be like, I'm better than you, girls, money. Money, girls, I'm better than you. Like, if you just break the lines down to what's he saying in this line, then that's what it is. It's just money, I'm better than you, girls. So basically, what they're rapping about and what they're saying is just, I mean, while it's well produced and it sounds great and they can rap, quote unquote, they have good voices, the content is just, it's just not there because it's just a repetitive pattern over and over again of these four main topics. Now, when you're looking at something like this compared to, say, probably like the last iteration of rock, which was grunge rock, you can see why. I mean, if you believe that there's any type of social engineering, that social engineers would push towards something more like this. Because if you look at, say, for instance, like Nirvana fans or something like that, there was no way that you were going to be able to get Nirvana fans to buy Gucci clothes and buy expensive cars, expensive watches, expensive liquor. They were pretty much the opposite of that. And that may have been why they did that kind of like thing where they literally basically killed rock, like in front of the world. They're like, oh, well, this is like the most popular rocker right now. Now he's dead. And now here comes Snoop Doggy Dogg, and he's sipping on gin and juice and wearing like gang clothes. Okay, we get it. Because these guys, I mean, if you watch their videos, it's basically like an Americanism sales pitch. It's like, I got the fancy car, I got the big boob women, I got drugs, I've got liquor, I'm taking flights everywhere, and if you mess with me, I will shoot you. I mean, it's Americanism. Basically, when it comes down to it, it's the corporations pushing Americanism through this kind of like veil of gangsterism and coolness. But I mean, realistically, the Sackler family is no different from Migos. They sell crack to your grandma too. And so I guess it's hypocrisy upon hypocrisy upon hypocrisy. Like, there's no real way to put any judgment on this. It's just to look at it as if to say, well, if this is bad, probably also what the Sacklers are doing is bad too, because they're also selling drugs to people. So to just say that, oh, well, they're the only people that are wrong for doing it is not to say anything. But to say that, it does seem like it's kind of a concerted effort by higher level media corporations to push this type of music when, there's a lot of rappers out there with much higher level of like introspective content and different types of content, and they just don't really get picked up by the major labels. And I think now people can kind of see with, especially people on YouTube, you can kind of see how important distribution is. When you get shadow banned, it doesn't matter how good your videos are. It doesn't matter how many people wanted to watch your videos the day before you got shadow banned because you're shadow banned. And so it was like that with a lot of artists, and artists used to complain about that stuff and say, well, hey, the music studios just aren't picking us up for distribution. And a lot of artists would get shelved and other things. So there is a level of control that the record labels do have over which artists get distribution and exposure and which ones don't. And also, you can also see how now a lot of artists were complaining when iTunes first came out that they were using the digital sales to manipulate album sales, because it's pretty easy to just, for some huge corporation to either order, millions of copies of a record each on an individual iTunes account and boost the sales that way, or they could even just be directly manipulating it, working with Apple. Who knows? But people, obviously now that we can see with the algorithms and stuff that they do with Google and YouTube, that maybe that's not as outlandish of a conspiracy theory as people thought before when they were just saying, oh, well, the reason why you're not getting distribution is because you suck. But now we could see maybe it's because they just didn't have the correct message that the larger machine wanted to push, and that people like this do have the correct message that they want to push, which is, be a gangster, sell crack to your grandma, shoot people. I don't know why they want to push that, but obviously they do, because there's plenty of skilled rappers out there that aren't talking about this, and if for some reason they're not getting the distribution, they're not getting the views. I mean, some of these views on some of these videos are close to 200 million views, something like that. So to me, I guess I just want to thank Susan Wojcicki for, banning libertarians that want me to have the ability to defend myself. They're banned. But this guy that wants to sell drugs to me, he wants to shoot me, and he thinks he's better than me, he thinks he's better than everybody, he's allowed to get hundreds of millions of views on YouTube. So thanks, appreciate it. Free speech is definitely alive and well. So with that, I'm going to get out of here. This video went on pretty long, but thanks if you listened to it. Have a good day and go Big Town.